Welcome back everyone. Today we are going to discuss this very important fat soluble vitamin A. So let's start this discussion. Vitamin A, first, this vitamin A contains there are two forms of vitamin A. This is the preformed form and this is the provitamin. Vitamin A contains this preformed and provitamin. This preformed are from the animal sources. These are called retinoids. Animal sources, preformed vitamins called retinoids. The provitamin are the plant sources. These provitamin are the plant sources. These are called carotenoids. Animal sources retinoids, so preformed, and plant sources provitamin, retinoids and carotenoids. Remember this. Then we are going to see the ring structure. This ring structure of this vitamin. Ring structure. The ring structure is, remember, beta ionone ring plus isoprenoid. Beta ionone ring plus isoprenoid is the ring structure. Okay. Remember, beta carotenoid, that is the provitamin, has two beta ionone rings. Beta carotenoid has two beta ionone rings. Remember this. It's a very important fact. Then we're going to see the retinoids. In the retinoids, all compounds related to retinol are called retinoids. All compounds related to retinol are called retinoids. There are three forms of retinoids we are going to see. First is retinal. This retinal is for vision. Remember, this retinal is for vision. This is the aldehyde form of vitamin A. Retinal, aldehyde. Retinal is for vision. So there are two forms of this retinal. There is all trans, and there is 11 cis. All trans and 11 cis. This 11 cis present in, remember, rhodopsin. So 11 cis form in rhodopsin is the retinal form for vision. Next is the retinoic acid. This is the vitamin A acid. This is for growth, morphogenesis, and cellular differentiation. Growth, morphogenesis, and cellular differentiation. Retinoic acid has three forms. Again, all trans, 9 cis, and 13 cis. All trans, 9 cis, and 13 cis. The three forms of retinoic acid required for growth, morphogenesis, and cellular differentiation. Third form is going to see retinol. This was retinal This is retinol. This is the alcohol form. Alcohol form. This retinol is for, remember, reproduction. The retinol is for reproduction. We have seen three different forms of retinoids: retinol, retinol, and retinoic acid. Next we are going to see is the carotenoids. Carotenoids. The carotenoids, you know, these are the provitamins from plants. Provitamins from plants. Most prevalent carotenoid, remember, most prevalent carotenoid is beta carotene. Is beta carotene. Beta carotene is the most prevalent carotenoid. Remember, there is a non-pro vitamin A carotenoid. Non-pro vitamin A carotenoid. These are called lutein and zeaxanthin. Zeaxanthin. Lutein and zeaxanthin. These are non-provitamin A carotenoids. This deficiency lead to, remember, macular degeneration. Macular degeneration. Another non-provitamin, remember, lycopene. Lycopene. This deficiency leads to prostate cancer. Lutein and zeaxanthin for macular degeneration, lycopene for prostate cancer. We have seen these two forms, retinoids and carotenoids. Next we are going to see very important metabolism of vitamin A. Metabolism of vitamin A. Under this we are going to discuss a lot of things. So we have this animal sources. Okay, and we have this here, the plants, the plant sources, the plants. From these plants we know we get this carotenoids, the most prevalent form, beta carotene. We get this beta carotene from the plants. Okay, so draw separating line here. This beta carotene, under the influence of this enzyme, dioxygenase enzyme. Dioxygenase enzyme is converted to retinal. Retinal. This retinal is further then converted to retinol. Beta carotene, dioxygenase enzyme influence, retinal, further converted to retinol. We have seen these animal sources. From these animal sources, these are the preformed vitamins. Preformed vitamins. So these preformed vitamins combined with retinol esters. Remember, retinol esters. They join with this pathway along with retinal to form retinol. Both from animal sources and plant sources, this common thing, retinol, is formed. From which, after this, we are going to see this retinol. Retinol combines with, remember, fatty acids. Fatty acids to form, remember, retinol esters. Retinol esters are formed when retinol combines with fatty acid. Where, remember, intestine, very important, in the intestine. Here in the intestine they are finally absorbed through which chylomicrons. Chylomicrons absorb these retinol esters formed in the intestine. The chylomicrons absorb the retinol esters from the intestine. After absorption, finally go to this organ, liver. After being absorbed by chylomicrons, they go to liver. These retinol esters in the intestine go to liver. So now we are going to see the liver. This is the liver. Okay. This liver. There are receptors. Remember, there are receptors. These receptors are ApoE ligand receptors. ApoE ligand receptors. So these chylomicrons come and attach to this receptor and gets absorbed. What is this receptor? ApoE in the bracket ligand receptors. ApoE receptors, which helps in absorption of this chylomicron. After absorption, they are stored as retinal esters. Retinal esters. Stored as retinal esters, where they are stored in, remember, perisinusoidal cells. Perisinusoidal cells or the, remember, itocells. Perisinusoidal cells or itocells of liver stored as retinal esters. This retinal esters further the action of, remember, retinoil palmitate. Retinoil palmitate. This action of retinoil palmitate forms this retinol, to which, remember, two compounds, important compounds, are attached. The first compound is transthyretin. And the second compound is RBP, which is retinol binding protein. Okay, retinol binding protein, transthyretin combined with retinol. So there forms three compounds: RBP, retinol, and transthyretin, which leads to this, remember, formation of tri-molecular complex. Very, very important. So after on the action of retinol palmitate, retinol is formed, which then combines with transthyretin and retinol binding protein. So these are the three compounds that comes in together to form the complex. This is called tri-molecular complex. Very important to remember. This tri-molecular complex then goes to three places. First is the eyes. Obviously we know vitamin A is important for the eyes. Next is to the skins. Next to the eyes, to the skins, then to other target organs. Other target organs. To the eyes, to the skins, and to other target organs. We will see during the deficiency manifestation which are the other target organs. So this as a whole is the metabolism of this vitamin A from animal sources and plants. In combination with fatty acids form retinol esters. Chylomicrons get absorbed into liver. Remember this receptor, ApoE ligand receptors, stored as retinal esters in the itocells or pre-sinusoidal cells, forms the tri-molecular complex with transthyretin and retinol binding protein, which then goes to eyes, skins, and other target organs. Next we are going to see an important vitamin A in vision. Vitamin A in vision. So we have previously seen the different forms of retinal. Remember this 11 cis retinal combines with this protein called opsin protein. This is the aldehydic form of vitamin A. This combines with opsin protein to form important visual pigment. We all know what it is, rhodopsin. Okay, important visual pigment rhodopsin is formed from 11 cis retinal and opsin. So we're going to see an important, very important cycle here in brief, not in complex mechanism. We're going to see Wald's visual cycle. Wald's visual cycle. So what happens when light falls on retina when the photoreceptor elements are present, rods and cones. These rods contain this rhodopsin composed of 11 cis retinal and opsin. When light falls on retina, this 11 cis retinal form is converted to all trans retinal form. 11 cis retinal form is converted to all trans retinal form. Very important to remember. And also with this, the unstable intermediates are also formed. So finally, all trans retinal combines with opsin. As 11 cis retinal detaches from the opsin, all trans retinal combines with opsin is formed. This complex is formed. Then all trans retinal is released from opsin. So all trans retinal is released from opsin. After binding to opsin, all trans retinal is released. This leads to this detachment leads to, remember, generation of very important phenomenon, impulse. Generation of impulse, very important phenomenon. What leads this all trans retinal when it detaches from opsin. Okay, this is the all important in very brief. It's very complex reaction. We don't need to remember exactly Watt's visual cycle. Just remember these key points, these important points. That would be enough. Now we are going to see this important phase, generation of impulse. Generation of impulse. Okay, what happens in this generation impulse? So this protein meta-rhodopsin 2, this meta-rhodopsin 2 converts this inactive GPCR, G protein coupled receptors, to active GPCR. Inactive GPCR is converted to active GPCR by meta-rhodopsin 2. This process is whole important, known as, remember, photoisomerization. Conversion of inactive GPCR to active GPCR by meta-rhodopsin 2, which then further leads to this formation of active G protein. Active GPCR, active G protein called transducin. All these proteins are very important. We need to remember their name. Beta-rhodopsin 2 active G protein is transducin. This active G protein transducin, remember, converts inactive to active phosphodiesterase. Very important enzyme. Inactive to active phosphodiesterase. Phosphodiesterase enzyme is activated. Who activates it? Transducin is an active G protein. What is this action of phosphodiesterase? Remember, this phosphodiesterase converts cyclic GMP to 5-GMP. Cyclic GMP to 5-GMP. This is the action of phosphodiesterase. So there is reduction in levels of cyclic GMP. Cyclic GMP is converted to 5-GMP, so there is reduction in levels of cyclic GMP. This reduction in cyclic GMP, remember, closes the sodium channels. This closure of sodium channels leads to hyperpolarization of membranes of the rods and cones. Hyperpolarization of the membranes, which causes hyperpolarization, closure of the sodium channels. Why? There is a reduction in the level of cyclic GMP. This hyperpolarization of cell membrane is the causes generation of impulse. When did this causes generation of nerve impulse, which is the hyperpolarization of the membranes. So it results from the closure of the sodium channels. So this is all about the generation of impulse. Very important. We need to remember some very important proteins. First is the beta-rhodopsin 2. This converts the inactive GPCR to active GPCR. This process is called photoisomerization. Next is the transducin, which is the active G protein, which converts inactive to active phosphodiesterase. Very important enzyme, remember. Phosphodiesterase, which converts cyclic GMP to 5-GMP. So as there is a reduction in the level of cyclic GMP, closes the sodium channels. Hyperpolarization, remember, hyperpolarization, which causes the generation of nerve impulses. Okay, it's simple to understand. You need to just revise 2 to 3 times and you will remember everything. So next we are going to see is the vitamin A has some steroid-like functions. Why we say that it has steroid-like function? Because it is important in regulation of gene expression. It is important in regulation of gene expression. It acts via retinoic acid receptors. Retinoic acid receptors. Steroid-like function, this vitamin A acts via retinoic acid receptors. For these receptors, remember the ligand is very simple, retinoic acid. The ligand for this retinoic acid receptor is this retinoic acid. So this is the vitamin A's steroid-like functions. Next we are going to see antioxidant role. So antioxidant role of vitamin is carried out by, remember, beta carotene. Okay, beta carotene. This has photosensitive protective properties. This has photoprotective properties. So this is why beta carotene is an antioxidant. Antioxidant means generally we refer to as does not allow the generation of free radicals. Okay, some vitamins acting as antioxidants here. We have vitamin A, this form of beta carotene. Other we have vitamin C. Vitamin E is also an important antioxidant. Vitamin A, C and E are very important antioxidants. Now we are going to discuss the most important. It is the deficiency manifestations. Deficiency manifestations. Okay, very important discussion. Listen carefully. First, in the eyes, we have seen before the trimolecular complex goes to eyes, skin and other target organs. Deficiency manifestation in the eyes, we will see first the earliest manifestation. Very important. Remember, there is loss of vision to green light. The earliest manifestation is loss of vision to green light. Then there is night blindness, very common. Night blindness called nyctalopia due to decreased 11-cis retinal in rhodopsin. You know, this 11-cis retinal in the rhodopsin is very important for vision in the world's visual cycle and in generation of impulse. So this deficiency, night blindness or nyctalopia, is due to decreased 11-cis retinal. Then there is conjunctival dryness. This is conjunctival and corneal xerosis. Conjunctival and corneal xerosis. This leads to form of Bittot's spots. You know, this is a very important clinical finding. Bittot's spots. Bittot's spot is a heaped triangular lesion. It's a very foamy appearance. You see the diagrams, you will understand. It's a very foamy appearance. It's occur usually in temporal side of cornea. Remember, temporal side of cornea. It's a heaped triangular lesion, foamy appearance, usually in the temporal side of cornea. Bittot's spots. From conjunctival dryness. Next we are going to see is there is corneal ulcer and keratomalacia. Corneal ulcer and keratomalacia in the eyes. So all these features, corneal ulcer and keratomalacia, conjunctival dryness, night blindness, nyctalopia, this all leads to, remember, xerophthalmia. Okay, this xerophthalmia, again I am repeating, corneal ulcer and keratomalacia, conjunctival dryness, conjunctival and corneal xerosis, and nyctalopia or night blindness. Xerophthalmia. Next we are going to see in the skin. I discussed in deficiency manifestation, important deficiency manifestation in the eyes. Next is we are going to discuss is the skin. In the skin, remember, there is first follicular hyperkeratosis. hyperkeratosis. Okay, this general manifestation in towards skin. Okay, follicular hyperkeratosis manifestation towards skin. This is due to adnexal gland blocking. Stored skin is due to adnexal gland blocking. Follicular hyperkeratosis. The skin resemble very big lesions like in the skin of the toad, you must have seen. This is due to adnexal gland blocking. Then there is squamous metaplasia. Squamous metaplasia in mucus secreting epithelium. Mucus secreting epithelium. Squamous metaplasia in mucus secreting epithelium. Next is loss of taste sensation. Loss of taste sensation in the tongue due to vitamin A deficiency. And then there is very important acne. A lot of acne will be developed on the face due to vitamin A deficiency on the skin. There is loss of taste sensation. Squamous metaplasia in the mucus secreting epithelium. This is one of the reason of acne. Mucus secreting epithelium. And there is very important follicular hyperkeratosis, that is towards skin due to adnexal gland blocking. These two very important manifestation of vitamin A, importantly in the eyes and in the skin. Next we are going to see is vitamin A in treatment. Important discussion. Vitamin A in treatment. So remember, beta carotene is used in cutaneous porphyria. Cutaneous porphyria. These porphyrias are related to disorder in heme metabolism. We will discuss later. This beta carotene is used in cutaneous porphyria. All trans retinoic acid, retinoic acid is used in, remember, in promyelocytic leukemia. Promyelocytic leukemia is used as a differentiation theory or therapy. Differentiation therapy. All trans-retinoic acid in promyelocytic leukemia. Next is we have very important 13-cis retinoic acid. 13-cis retinoic acid is used in cystic acne. This 11-cis retinoic acid is used in cystic acne. The form of this used is, remember, isotretinoin. Confusing names. Isotretinoin. Once you study 2 to 3 times, you remember it. Cystic acne, isotretinoin, form of 11-cis retinoic acid. Next is vitamin A is also used in treatment in psoriasis. So very important clinical finding. In medicine we often investigate. The first thing it is investigate in the eyes is psoriasis. Vitamin A is in treatment of psoriasis. Next is 13-cis retinoic acid. This is 13-cis retinoic acid. This is Also, this 13-cis retinoic acid used in childhood neuroblastoma. Childhood neuroblastoma. 13-cis retinoic acid is also used in childhood neuroblastoma. Childhood neuroblastoma. Then we've seen this vitamin A treatment. Next we're going to see is vitamin A toxicity. Very important. Vitamin A toxicity, it generally takes place in, remember, Arctic explorers. Arctic explorers. Why? Because the lysosome is damaged. In Arctic explorers, remember, these Arctic explorers often consume polar bears. There is no food in the Arctic, so they kill these polar bears. They consume this polar bear's liver. Okay, this consumption of liver, polar liver consumption, leads to lysosomal damage. So this is the vitamin toxicity in the Arctic explorers. We're going to see two types of toxicity. First is the acute. Okay, acute toxicity is pseudo tumor cerebri. Pseudotumor cerebri. Next is exfoliative dermatitis. Exfoliative dermatitis. Skin is affected. Exfoliative dermatitis. Next is hepatomegaly. Liver is most commonly affected in acute vitamin A toxicity, and there is hyperlipidemia. Hyperlipidemia, hepatomegaly, exfoliative dermatitis, and pseudotumor cerebri. Then chronic vitamin A toxicity features are weight loss, anorexia. Then there is hepatomegaly. Okay, hepatomegaly in the form of cirrhosis. There is damage of the liver cells, progressive damage of the liver cells, hepatomegaly, leading to in the form of cirrhosis. So we discussed this vitamin A toxicity, this acute and chronic. So we're going to discuss this very important question is why increased risk of fracture in hypervitaminosis. Why increased risk of fractures in hypervitaminosis leading to vitamin A. This is referring to the vitamin A hypervitaminosis. There is increased risk of factors. Remember, this retinoic acid. Okay, retinoic acid favors osteoclastic activity. So this eventually will lead to demineralization of bone, which will ultimately lead to increased risk of fractures. This hashtag sign is generally used for denoting fractures, so there is increased risk of fractures. Why retinoic acid generally favors is osteoclastic activity in the bones, which leads to their demineralization. Next we are going to discuss this very important RDA, recommended dietary allowance of vitamin A. So we have four categories. There is children from 1 to 6 years. There are men and women. There is pregnancy. Finally, there is lactation. Children, men and women, pregnancy and lactation. Here, I want to see some milligram per day. In children, we require 400 milligram per day. In men and women, 600. Pregnancy, 800. Lactation, 900. Very important values. I need to remember this. In children, 400 milligram per day. Men and women, 600. Pregnancy, 800. Lactation, 900. Sometimes 950 is also written, but remember this important RDA values. Okay. Next, I want to see some sources. Sources are very important. Animal sources. Okay. First is the halibut liver oil. Then there is cod liver oil. Okay. Then there is egg. There is cheese. There is milk products in general. Okay, etc. Egg, cheese, milk products, halibut liver oil and cod liver oil. These are the very important sources of vitamin A. Animal sources. Then we are going to see the plant sources. The richest is, we all know, carrots. Okay. Then green leafy vegetables. Then category of yellow fruits. But in these yellow fruits there is mango, papaya, okay, pumpkin, mango, papaya, pumpkin, the category of yellow fruits. The richest source is carrots and green leafy vegetables. These are the plant sources. I want to see one last is the assay, biochemical assay of vitamin A. Very simple, nothing is here. There is this dark adaptation time. Okay. This is this dark adaptation time. There in this serum vitamin A assay. Vitamin A level in the serum assay and dark adaptation time. With this, we conclude our whole vitamin A discussion. We've seen the three important forms, the retinoids and carotenoids, the metabolism, then Wald's visual cycle, and generation of impulse. We've seen the deficiency manifestation, toxicity, the treatment, the RDA, the sources and the assay. Very important fat soluble vitamin. Asked lot of questions are asked from this. Please do revise them. Thank you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Good luck.